Did you know that the nitrogen cycle could be the most important cycle on our planet? And let's see why that is. So let's see if I can have a quick look at this one right here. Perfect. I think that is great this way. Wonderful. So here we have to think that nitrogen is part of our atmosphere. It's part of a gas. We are using nitrogen is part of what fills out our atmosphere. When we inhale oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide, but we don't use the nitrogen. So when we exhale a little less oxygen, a little more carbon dioxide, but nitrogen is unused by our body. So first of all, if you notice here, we have N2, so that's the molecule of nitrogen. Interestingly enough, we cannot use the atmosphere in the atmosphere, even though we need it in our body. In our body, even our DNA contains nitrogen. So somehow we need a way for nitrogen from the atmosphere to make its way into our body. So let's see how this can be done. So the first thing to keep in mind is that the most important organism to help us are bacteria. So let's see, if you look at this one here, we have the word bacteria here, we have bacterias, we have here bacteria, we also have bacteria, and bacteria. Lots of different bacterias helping us in the process. So let's see what it means. So we have here the nitrogen in our atmosphere, and because the ground has air in it and water, we have living organisms. So this first type of organisms we have are nitrogen fixing bacteria for a process called nitrogen fixation. So let's see if I can write it down. So we have nitrogen fixation. So here we're gonna have N. So let's see, NH3 NH4 plus. Perfect. So let's see if I can make it a bit bigger. So here we have the gas, which is part of our atmosphere. We have bacteria that will do a few things for us. First of all, it's going to take the nitrogen here, and part of their metabolism will use water, and this will be the waste materials coming from their work. So from the nitrogen gas, we end up with ammonium and ammonia in a process called nitrogen fixation. So that's very important. Very nice. Let's see if I can go back to the drawing. So as part of this, so it will fixate the nitrogen with new atoms. And here we end up in the soil to create the ammonia. So here we have a new compound with hydrogen and nitrogen. I'm going to show you a few pictures, and hopefully you will enjoy something that is kind of fun right here. Let's see, where are my pictures? Let's see if I can get those again. So I'm going to have this and this. Let's open them. Perfect. Stop this presentation. Present. Share screen. Wonderful. Okay. You may have seen this. So here I am. It's in the spring. I took a few pictures. And if you look here at the grassy area, you can see that we have grass, but a few places, a few spots, we have grass that is much taller. Let's take another picture. So here is another one. You can see it's the spring. The buds are just coming out slowly. We have some flowers here. We have grass, but we have places where we have grass that is much longer. There's a close-up. Look at how long this grass is right here. This grass here is just very happy. And the big question is, how come some places the grass grows well, and we have some places where the grass grows very quickly? And the reason for that, if you know, it's the human's best friend, dogs. So during the spring, when we have dogs coming into the grassy area and they pee, part of their pee has ammoniac in it. And so what happens is that as it goes into the ground, it acts as a fertilizer. So in those spots, you have the grass that said, hey, we have new, it's like a fertilizer that is available. So let's see if we can use that and grow faster. So that's why we have those difference here. So it's kind of nice to see how it works. So let's go back to our picture from earlier. Let's see this one. Perfect. So if you look, dogs are actually adding ammoniac in our soil, which is like a fertilizer. So plants love it. Excellent. So the first step here, nitrogen fixation is very important. Now, on top of that, there are other bacteria, and here there's a new process called nitrification. So the nitrification here, what it is, we have new bacteria that have new metabolism. So here they're taking these molecules of ammonium and ammoniac, and instead of having nitrogen and hydrogen, they end up with nitrogen and oxygen. And there's a reason why this is so important. So let's see if we can talk about the other process right here. So we have NO3 minus NO3, oops, NO2 minus. So here we have a process called nitrification. Nitrification. And the reason why that's the name, this one here is called what we call nitrate. Nitrate. It's a nitrate ion. There's a little negative sign here. In a moment, I'll share why it's important. And this other one here is nitrite, which is another group of atoms with a charge. But what's interesting is that these here will be able to go with the minerals that can be put together. So there's some minerals, and let's see if you can see some potassium that has a positive charge. You have calcium. You also have iron with positive charges. You have copper. That's also work. There's manganese. That is also part of it. So let's put the 2 plus. Let's see what else. We have zinc. We have sodium. So all these minerals that are in the ground will be able to go with the nitrate and the nitrite and be water soluble. And the reason why this is so important is that we have plants that will absorb from the water in the ground these nitrates and nitrites that has the minerals to allow the plant to grow. So we have nitrates, nitrites, ammonium, all the good stuff in the ground to grow the plants. Now, interestingly enough, what do we do with the plants? There we go. Humans are absorbing nitrogen, not through the nitrogen in the atmosphere, but through vitamins and minerals that are included in the plants when they are growing, and all based on bacterial, what's the word? Bacterial functions, you could say, in the soil. Now, interestingly enough, some plants are eaten by animals, and indeed, some humans are eating animals as well. So the best way for us to get this nitrogen is through what we eat. And that's why it's so important. But the only way this is possible, it is through the work of bacteria. Now, I mentioned earlier that it was a cycle. And the reason for that is that as part of this plant cycle, growth cycle, we have what we call decomposers. We have bacteria that will take dead plants and roots and will decompose them and recycle some of the nutrients, some of the minerals that are in the ground from the plants to create better soil for the next plants. That is quite amazing. So bacteria still working. And on top of that, there are other bacteria, and sometimes there's some larger molecules that break down that will take the nitrogens that are part of compounds like nitrates and nitrites to be broken down to go back into the atmosphere as nitrogen. So let's see if I can show you on what I have here. So here from under here, we're going back into the nitrogen gas. Here, the process is called denitrification. So denitrification. So you could see these two words are exactly the same. So there's nitrification and denitrification. There are also some other gases. So some gases with nitrogen and also some oxygen. And some of these in the gas, what we'll do, it will go back into the atmosphere, creating the cycle right here. Now, you have to keep in mind that because we have more and more humans on the planet, we need more and more food. So that means that if you look at this cycle right here, because we need more and more plants, often bacteria are great, but they might not work as fast as we would like them to work. So what do humans do? They add fertilizers. We add fertilizers that are rich in nitrogen and hydrogen, like ammoniac, as part of fertilizers, but we also add nitrates and nitrites and other type of fertilizers to make sure that the plants are growing. Because what we do with plants, we cut them and then we move them out. So over the long term, over the decades, what happens is that you have the soil that is getting poorer and poorer with respect to content of nutrients. And that's why sometimes farmers will need to do that. If you are mindful, you could decide to have organic food, in which case if you eat organic food, you have to keep in mind that we need to follow the process here of the nitrogen cycle. It's much slower. It is less plant mass being produced, and therefore the farmers can have less food to sell. And that's why sometimes, actually most of the time, organic food tends to be more expensive, is that we're using the natural cycle, which are much slower than if we were using fertilizers to make plants grow faster. So that's something to look into. And that is the base of what the nitrogen cycle is. If it happens you have any clarification questions, put them in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And if it happens that you want to learn something new, I'm going to put here another video where we're going to learn something new about the environment. I'll see you there.